Your fingers are numb before you even step outside. Wind presses against the shelter, hunting for every opening, and the cold has settled so deeply into the ground that even the air seems hard. There is no insulated coat waiting for you, no heated room, no electric light. One open seam can drain warmth from your body. One weak wall can surrender to the wind. One lost flame can leave you working blind. So what keeps you alive? Not one miracle invention. Across Ice Age Eurasia, communities separated by thousands of miles and tens of thousands of years developed different answers to the same problem. They learned to control three things that winter tried to take from them: warmth, shelter, and light. The first answer is small enough to vanish in your palm. At Denisova Cave in Siberia, archaeologists recovered some of the earliest known eyed needles, dating to at least 40,000 years ago. Each one demanded extraordinary control. Its maker had to shape a thin shaft of bone or ivory without snapping it, smooth the surface, sharpen the point, and open a tiny hole near the opposite end. Why invest so much labor in something so fragile? The easy answer is that the eyed needle invented fitted clothing. The evidence tells a more interesting story. People had probably been shaping garments before eyed needles appeared. Stone borers and bone awls could punch holes through prepared hide, allowing cord or sinew to lace separate pieces together. The eyed needle made that process more efficient. Its point opened a path, while its eye pulled thread through behind it. Finer seams became easier. Repairs became more controlled. Layered garments and attached decorations became more practical. The needle did not create clothing from nothing. It turned difficult sewing into more precise sewing. But a tool is only part of the story. The stronger evidence is what people managed to make with it. At Sungir, on the central Russian plain, several people were buried around 34,000 years ago with thousands of mammoth ivory beads. The garment materials disappeared long ago. The positions of the beads did not. They formed patterns along the bodies rather than random piles. Those patterns strongly suggest sleeves, trousers, footwear, head coverings, and outer garments. Archaeologists can trace the vanished clothing through the ornaments once attached to it. Could these have been special burial clothes rather than everyday winter clothing? Certainly. A grave does not preserve a normal day, but ceremonial clothing still reveals the knowledge of the people who made it. Every bead had to be shaped, pierced, positioned, and fastened to something that no longer survives. This was more than hide thrown over a pair of shoulders. It was clothing engineered to fit a body, then transformed into a surface for identity. It could be repaired, layered, and adapted as conditions changed. A fitted garment carries warmth with you. It cannot stop the wind from crossing an open landscape. That requires a second answer. Thousands of years after the earliest needles at Denisova, people near Mezhyrich in what is now Ukraine arranged mammoth bones into large circular structures. Recent radiocarbon work places one of them at roughly 18,000 years ago. The surviving pieces are massive. Skulls, jaws, tusks, and long bones were placed in deliberate patterns rather than discarded as ordinary waste. Archaeologists have long interpreted these rings as the foundations or lower walls of dwellings. What stood above those bones is less certain. Wooden supports, hides, turf, or bark may have completed the shelter. Large bones may have acted as supports or weights. The lighter materials decayed, taking the exact blueprint with them. The mammoths themselves leave another unanswered question. Some bones may have come from hunted animals. Others may have been collected from carcasses already lying on the landscape. Either way, people selected, moved, and arranged extremely heavy material to create protected space. Why build with bone at all? Mezhyrich stood on the mammoth steppe, where wood could be scarce and fuel had to be managed carefully. Mammoth bones were durable, available in large pieces, and heavy enough to resist movement. In that environment, they offered one possible foundation for shelter, Not every Ice Age community lived inside mammoth bones. These structures belonged to a particular landscape and a particular solution. That is precisely what makes them remarkable. Then the sun disappeared, and survival presented a third problem. Clothing could hold warmth close. A shelter could break the wind. Neither could let you work beyond the reach of daylight. For that evidence, the story moves west into the decorated caves of Ice Age France. At Lascaux, archaeologists found stone objects with shallow depressions that held fuel. One carefully worked red sandstone example even had a handle. Traces from Paleolithic lamps show that animal fat could feed their flames. Experimental archaeology reveals how simple the system was. Fat placed in a shallow stone basin can feed a wick and produce a small, steady light. Not a room heater, not a replacement for a large fire, a controlled flame for a controlled task. That distinction mattered underground. A hearth lit one fixed area. A torch was better for moving through a passage. A stone lamp could provide steadier light while hands worked on a wall or object. Animal fat was valuable food, not meaningless waste. Burning it required a choice. Some needs in the darkness mattered enough to spend stored energy on light. Did the people at Mezhyrich place lamps like these beside their mammoth bone walls? The evidence does not say that. That warning matters. Denisova, Sungir, Mezhyrich, and Lascaux are not one camp. They are separated by geography, culture, and time. Combining them into one imaginary winter would make the story cleaner and the archaeology worse. Together, however, they form a wider map of Ice Age problem solving. Sewing tools became more precise. Beads preserved the outlines of complex garments. Mammoth bones were organized into built space. Shaped stone and animal fat carried light beyond the day. None of these technologies made Ice Age life safe. Cold still punished mistakes. Food shortages, injuries, disease, and changing climate still threatened communities. A needle could break. A shelter could fail. A flame could go out. But survival did not require danger to disappear. It required people to reduce one danger at a time. Close one seam, strengthen one wall, protect one flame. Your fingers are still numb before you step outside. Now you understand what stands between skin and winter. Not one heroic invention, but thousands of careful decisions preserved in a needle, a ring of bones, and a small light held against the dark.